Well, welcome to this episode of Sooner Legends Podcast. I'm your host, Mike the Legend, and as you can tell, I got my usual host, Mike Boganowski Sr., and I've got special guest, KREF 107.7 sports talk analyst. He's guys, I ain't lying because I'm saying this because he's here. This guy's my favorite sports talk radio in the state of Oklahoma, Mike Steely. Mike, how we doing
Whoa,
today, bro?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me, and always enjoy talking Sooner football. I mean, it's usually a really good topic of conversation. I know this past year was maybe not as enjoyable as most, but you know what? It's Oklahoma, and Oklahoma will find its way back.
I
I feel good that they will. The problem is, you know what? This past season, guys. I don't like to be an excuses guy because again, everybody deals with injuries. You know, it's a the modern world of college football is just crazy. But it seems like surely there can't be another year like this one for Oklahoma football in terms of just bad luck, toughest schedule they've ever faced. Texas had a really good season, no doubt. Sark's got them going in the right direction, a very, very good direction. But you also get the
mhm.
softer schedule. You get the softer schedule.
Exactly.
You know why? Because they went back 10 years and Oklahoma was the much more dominant program. So now the Sooners, who are trying to rebuild their culture and rebuild their roster, they get a tougher schedule. They get, I mean, decimated by injuries in the wide receiver room. They
Yes.
get decimated by injuries on the offensive line where they never got any continuity. And they have a defense that, for the most part, gave them a chance to win just about every single football game. But
Exactly.
because of the issues on the other side of the ball, you know, and the schedule, and you end up 6-7. So I'm thinking if Oklahoma can get the offense turned around, they can't have any worse luck than they did a year ago. And if Mateer gets some protection and they're able to, you know, run the football some and just not be a disaster like they were at many junctures during last season, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma comes back and has a really surprising season. It's
That's what
Oklahoma.
what you got to say, Mike? Big
Uh, I kind of look at this year. I mean, so we're going to have a difficult schedule again next year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
obvious. But I can't imagine the same type of issues and injury bug affecting us 2 years in a row. Um, I think Coach Venables is not going to allow those types, especially offensively, those types of issues to happen again. And I think he's already taken the necessary steps to rectify that offensive issue we had all year. And again, like we're getting, this may be somewhat unpopular, but I think we're getting guys that are hungry, and there's guys that want to go out there and play and get after it, and got a lot of stuff to prove. And I think that means a lot, and I think it's an underrated factor. When putting a football team together, and you got guys that are hungry, you got guys that want to go out there and give it all, and maybe even earn the money that they're getting paid, and put on for Oklahoma. And I think
Mhm.
that's an understated fact in college football, especially in today's landscape. And I think you kind of saw some of that. I don't want to say purge, but I can't think of a better word right now. But process. We processed a lot of that out, I think, in bringing in guys that want to play hard and do well, and love the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I, you know,
that's important, because there was some question last year, even with, here's Nick Anderson, who was the hero, one of the heroes in Dallas, with the catch from Dylan Gabriel. Uh, Rodney's his brother. Rodney always had some bad injury luck. And yet you had some Sooner fans questioning, is Nick Anderson really want to play? And the only reason that a lot of people even question that, as much as they really like Nick Anderson, the football player, and his Sooner family, that's been a big part of Oklahoma football, is because the money's involved, right? It creates a totally different scenario. Well, these guys, they want to stand over there and collect their paychecks. But that element, it's just part of college football. I really think for the most part, it was just bad luck. And Brent, because of your son being there, that those practices are hard. The off season's hard. They tackle in scrimmages, right? And can that create some of that issue? Yeah, you can have some bad luck there, but they're trying to get their team as physical as they can be, because during the Lincoln Riley era, it was all, glitz and glamour on offense and then a lot of softness on defense. And we saw that catch up to them in the big games they played in the college football, in the semifinals and in the postseason. It was always they got physically whipped. But so maybe there's a little bit of a trade-off there because they practice hard. I am hoping, though, that they can at least have a competent offense. I hate to say this about Seth Luttrell because he's a former Sooner, former national champion. I'm not saying the guy's totally clueless, but they had some issues there early. And then you could even see a difference when Joe John started calling plays. Ben Arbuckle might be, if not the brightest young mind in college football, he's up there. So let's hope they can play complementary football. We always hear that phrase. They need some of that next year because the defense, again, is going to be a monster, I think.
Well, and here's the deal. Yeah. And this is, our defense was really good this year. And imagine how much better that defense could have been if we had an offense that was middle of the road.
Yeah.
And could put
100%.
drives together and, not go 3 and out or give the ball right back after we took the ball away. And, all that stuff factors in on your defense and getting tired and just, just wearing down and being out on the field a lot. I mean, shit, you saw it last night with the Buccaneers. The defense took
yes, we did, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that I think that, if we have an offense that can sustain drives and the time of possession in our favor, I think our defense could probably be even better. And
I 100. I agree.
That's saying a lot, with some of our pieces that we're missing and the leadership and just the experience and Bowman, Stutzman, and Downs at all three levels. But I think they could be, if not just as good, probably better.
Yeah, and again, I totally agree with what you're saying because let's take the Tennessee game for instance. And people talk about, well, Hype will put his foot off the gas. Well, the reason he did that is Oklahoma was getting after his quarterback, right? Yeah. And how do you lose the game? A big fumble, just like what happened to Quinn Ewers with Ohio State the other night, right? With Jack Sawyer, But Oklahoma, what was the recipe? We knew the offense going into that game again was struggling. Is let your defense get you a couple turnovers, get a short field, go score, get some momentum that way. Well, the defense did just that, right? They get on the ball inside the 5-yard line, and Oklahoma Jackson fumbles it away. I also think that Jackson got shell-shocked early in the season. That hurt them. But the defense, time after time after time, the defense won the biggest games of the year in the SEC, Auburn, and, of course, Alabama. The defense just went out and did a great job. But you may have the greatest culture of all time, and you may have tough, hard-nosed guys on your defense. And Oklahoma did this past year, and I think will this year. But at some point when your offense isn't doing anything, I don't care if you're Mike Singletary, Reggie White, whoever, at some point you become a little bit demoralized because you're like, what else can we do here? We just had this great stop, got a turnover, and you guys are 3 and out for the 4 straight series, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying this all along, Mike. And also, Mike, this is the official chaplain of Sooner Legends podcast, Bishop Frank from
all right. Oklahoma. How we doing?
Good to see you guys. Big salute, fam.
But I still feel that Brent is the right guy for Oklahoma. I will always feel that. He's just Mike. You've been following Oklahoma for a long time. Fan,
Yeah.
radio host. I mean, I go back to 1971, my Sooner date. But anyway, Brent comes in after such and so Lincoln Riley left and was dealt with an empty cupboard per se, and Brent had to pretty much put a field together a team that year, which we went 6-7, and then the next year we go 10-2, and then this year we're like you said, depleted with injuries, wrong play calling. I still feel like Brent is the guy. Nobody hasn't changed my mind on that because of the culture, what he brings to OU, defensive mind, which we haven't seen defense in a long time here in Sooner Nation. So that's my thought, Mike.
Yeah, look, I think even Brent's detractors want to see him succeed. He's such a good dude. He's so passionate. He really cares about those players. What did he say when he got the job? We're to coach him hard and love him harder, right? And I really believe he's all about that. Yeah. There's no phoniness to the guy. There've been some game management issues and some things like that have happened, but I really believe. There were how many games could they have won with a competent offense? Tennessee, Missouri,
Missouri.
Is right. Missouri, you literally drop the ball and give them the game, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
So, I mean, that changes everything.
I still think we could beat Ole Miss, with a competent offense.
It's the worst Oklahoma offense, and they got a little better later, but it's the worst offense since the John Blake era. And the problem was the timing of it is you had a really good defense. And think about how good the numbers were for that defense and how much better those numbers could have been if you'd had an offense that helped them out more this past season. So I'm not saying the defense is the steel curtain or anything, but I do think this will be an excellent defense. And if Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer, I still think they have enough good skill guys there. If they can get the O-line working, they have a chance to I'm seeing some people, on Twitter, Oklahoma could go 4-8 next year or whatever. I just believe they're going to be better. I really do.
I do too. Me being a podcaster, Mike, and Bishop and Michael agree with this. During the season last year, everybody was on the Fire Bill Beatonbow train. There again, I love me some Big Bill, and we would tell people if you was to fire Bill Beatonbow today, he would have a job yesterday because of his O-line prowess and what he put into the pros. So it's hard, dealing with some of the doom and gloom.
Well, what?
You fire Bill, he's going to be hired in 0.73 seconds.
He's so well respected, yes, and he always has been. But look, the day and age that we live in. Here's my old man rant here again. And if you hear me on the air, I talk about this a lot. We live in an instant reaction. Everybody's looking for attention on social media. So they got to come with these either ridiculously outlandish takes to get some attention. Look, it's harder to tune out that noise than ever before because, back in my day, we had newspapers and a few radio shows, and that was it. Now, I tell you what I wouldn't do during the season, but I'm an Oklahoma football player. I wouldn't pick this up. I mean, I would, at least not on social media, because there's less civility than ever before. I think a lot of that is due to, our political divide. I don't care what side you're on, but instead of having any civil conversation, people come at you so hard. And it was like a guy came up to Kirk Herbstreit the other day, and Herbstreit blocked him, and then he put out on his Twitter, "Can you believe that Kirk Herbstreit is this soft?" And I'm thinking, he didn't block you because he's soft. He blocked you because you're an idiot, you know? And it's real simple that here's Kirk Herbstreit, who played major college football, you know, in the Big Ten, obviously at Ohio State, top of his profession, whether you like him or not. He's considered to be the guy among college football analysts right now. And the guy said, man, I can't believe this guy's so soft. You know, so a guy who's been super successful, he didn't block you because he's soft. He blocked you because he's tired of dealing with morons. But, you know, and that's how you have to look at a lot of these people. They would trade what they're doing right now to be in Michael Boganowski's situation right now, to be in John Mateer's situation, to be in Bill Bedenbaugh's situation, any of those guys. But, you know, it's just there's so much more of the negativity out there. And it's disappointing to see. I mean, we look, I've been doing talk radio for OU in some way, shape, or form since 1984. When Al came around, and it would have been 86 after Al, but we started doing a show after Al's for like an hour. And the negative people are always there, but now you just see more of them. It's kind of like if you have a really bad house that you haven't kept up very well and you haven't taken the trash out, you don't really see anything. You don't see the cockroaches till you turn the lights on, right? And now we've turned the lights on. You can see them everywhere.
Mike, this is why I love having you in. You know, you are so your wordplay is so beautiful.
I'm sure there's somebody out there.
Well,
This
Bishop,
old
what
man
was your
doesn't know what
thought
he's
about
saying. He's soft.
No. We've had that conversation multiple
We
times.
have that conversation, but you got to understand, in this climate, there's everybody wants to cancel everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to bury people. They get a chance, they want to bury you. They'll bring up a receipt, which I'm like, a receipt? Now we talking about receipts. I'm like, good night. You talk about when I was immature back then and might have did something that I don't even like that I did, but have moved on. But hey, it's crazy nowadays.
It's time to do that too. That's what I want to know, because I see all these people, I'm keeping receipts all day. I'm like, can't you go out and like get in the workforce or something? Or do you get to sit at a cubicle all day and collect receipts? I don't get it. It's like I said, I think we've lost a sense of community. When I was growing up, we used to know all our neighbors. We used to go out. You know what?
Yeah.
You know what I did? We went out and played, if it was off season, touch football or stick ball or baseball with a tennis ball or wiffle ball or one-on-one basketball. Or when Evel Knievel was popular, we'd build the ramps and try and jump our bicycles. You know, we actually got outside. We knew our neighbors. We had a community. Nowadays, it's just I remember the guy from Google on 60 Minutes said, we've designed these things so that you feel like you have to look at them all the time. Well, here's what we're doing most of the time. And, I'm guilty as well to a certain extent, but it's just, you can't look at that stuff. It's like your brain is a computer. You don't want the computer virus, right?
Right.
And the virus starts right here, I think, if you're a player. I don't know how much Michael looks at it, but
they're all like that.
Well, I did hear that Jackson apparently didn't look at social media. Now, I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what his roommate Luke Elzinga told me. He said, because I asked him, we had him in courtesy of One Oklahoma one day, and I said, did Jackson look at it? How is he doing with it? So he goes, oh no, he didn't get on all year, didn't look at it. So good for him.
I've preached that. I mean, I'm fighting it with my two at home right now. So I mean, it's a I don't know if there's a
it's a tough battle. I'm sure
it's a tough battle, and you can just tell them what you think and what you know, and hopefully one day they listen, and hopefully one day they're like, oh man, maybe my dad had a clue, maybe just a little one, but maybe.
They always find that out later in life. I was like, because at some point you think, oh my gosh, I know more than my parents. Are you kidding me? And then you get a little bit down the road and say, let's see, dad and mom are right about this and that and this and this and this and this. Pretty much everything.
Absolutely.
I've gotten more phone calls probably in the past month. Now that he's moving and doing all this stuff with like questions and in the back of my mind, I want to be like, see, I told you, you don't know shit, but I just try to help. One day I'll get I'll get a little slip talk in.
I thought I had all the answers at that age, man, and I didn't have, but I don't think I had any actually.
Had it all planned out. Knew that I was going to the league. Never thought I could get injured. This crazy talk. Hey, life hits hard, and when it hits, you better be able to move swiftly.
Yeah, and we all go through, like with my career, a couple of times you think, man, I'm working my tail off, and then something unfortunate happens, or you get a bad break. But then if the problem is you've got to get down the road in life to be able to look back at a certain marker in your life and say, okay, I know the reason why that happened now.
Correct.
It made me stronger to think this way. Or if when the next situation comes along that's going to be really tough to deal with, I know I can get through it and that it's not going to break me. But it takes time and maturity,
Key word, maturity. Go figure.
Hey, you said that 1971 for you. I got you by 1 year. My first Oklahoma game was Oklahoma, Kansas State, 1970. I was down in the which direction? Oh, north end zone. And Kansas State, my first game, and I know Michael was looking seriously at K-State, but Vince Gibson's Kansas State team with Lynn Dickey at quarterback, who'd later play in the NFL. Mac Heron was a running back who would later play in the NFL. I don't think Larry Brown was there at that team, the Redskins running back, but he's a K-State guy. But they beat OU. That was my first game. And then the next year, that's the year that Chuck Fairbanks, the yard signs, Chuck were going around, and Barry Switzer convinced him to go to the Wishbone. Now, here's what's interesting, because the next year they'd play, and of course, the game of the century against Nebraska. Fairbanks would go to the New England Patriots. Switzer would eventually win 3 natties, 74, 75, 85. But what's crazy, I was thinking about this today. So Texas was running the Wishbone. Their offensive coordinator, Emory Ballard, was the OC. Darrell Royal, former Sooner, was the Horns head coach, legendary head coach. So Switzer and a few of the coaches went to Texas, and the Texas coaches showed them how to run the offense. Would that happen today? I mean, like, hey, we're going to come to, okay, yeah, we'll show you what we're doing. And then all Oklahoma did was put in the Wishbone. And they put in better athletes, and they put in faster athletes, because Oklahoma was way ahead of the game on bringing in the African-American athlete, which is one of Switzer's strengths. And and Oklahoma took off, and Switzer. But I was just thinking about this. Can you imagine that now? That, we're going to come down to your, and you guys could show us the offense. We appreciate. Sure. Your biggest rival, come on down. We'll show you the offense that's going to kick our butt, and win 3 national championships in 15 years or whatever. Crazy.
Yeah. What was that Chuck Fairbanks said in one of his interviews when they started the Wishbone? They was like almost dead last in the Big 8, and by the end of the season, they was top of the Big 8 when they installed the Wishbone that year.
Yeah, they ran that Wishbone against Texas early in the year, and they were okay, but not great. But once they got that down, man, they were a machine. They were an absolute machine. And what did Greg Pruitt average? Like 9 yards a carry one year. I mean,
9 yards a carry. And then when Little Joe came in, man, that's when I think that Wishbone really took off, was when Little Joe came aboard. Greg Pruitt provided the ground, but You remember little Joe, Mike?
Oh my gosh, dude! I'm telling you, that's still my guy. We have him on the air once a year. Joe Washington, Mr. Silver Shoes. He had the
Oh,
cool
yeah.
helmet, the cool mouthpiece. And I can't tell you how many at that time we were playing elementary school football, but we were all getting out the model glue, trying to paint our shoes silver and everything. And it, of course, ends up looking ridiculous. Bob Stoops, by the way, has said that he painted his shoes silver when he was
Yep.
playing coming up for Joe Washington. He ended up kind of being a Sooner fan at that age because Oklahoma was the sexy school at the time. That offense was cool, and the Sooners had, not only great offense, but you think about the Selman brothers and Rod Schode and all those great defensive players. Amazing. When you had unlimited scholarships back then, you could do that. You could really stockpile some talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Mike, which I put this on Twitter a couple of days ago, my first two heroes for OU was Grant Burgett and Leon Crosswhite.
Mhm.
And then when the two Selman brothers, Leroy and Dewey, showed up, that was it for me. I've been defense ever since.
Grant Burgett got hurt, got that knee injury. He was starting, right? I think he started in the Baylor game.
Yep.
Switcher's first game was at Baylor in 1973. And
Yes.
Leon Crosswhite was a heck of a fullback.
Man, he was. I've ran into Leon several times, and let me tell you something, Mike. He still looks like he could don a set of shoulder pads.
Where was he from? Like White Deer, Texas, or Mule Deer?
No, he's from Hennessy, Oklahoma.
Oh, he was from Hennessy. Who was the guy from Texas? Maybe that was Wiley I was thinking of.
Yeah, Joe Wiley. You're thinking of Joe Wiley.
Okay. Yeah. But Crosswhite, I remember I had that poster they sold in the bookstore. I thought it was so cool. We went to buy it, and it was Leon Crosswhite leading the way with Greg Pruitt and Joe Wiley, running the triple option.
Yeah, it's what I tell these younger fans. We had the sexy quarterbacks of the Bob Stoops era, but somewhere when somebody does an all-time list of quarterbacks at OU, I don't know why they don't throw in Jack Mildred.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just they didn't get to see him play, right? Maybe they've seen some highlights. Yeah. Jack was such a great dude. We lost him way too early. I can remember.
Yes, we did.
This is my first reality of what college football was, because Jack Mildred was my guy on that team. And of course, I love that whole 71 Sooners team. But I remember that, they lost to Nebraska. And at the end, they went to play in the Sugar Bowl and beat Auburn, right? Terry Beasley was the wide receiver. Pat Sullivan won the Heisman Trophy, and OU won by like 3 touchdowns. But I remember telling my dad, well, we should be really good. I was like, what was I, 7 years old? We should be really good with Jack Mildred and all these guys next year. Well, son, Jack Mildred's graduating. I'm like, what? What is that? He won't be back next year. I'm like, and I can remember it's like, I was a little kid in my bunk bed crying endlessly because I didn't understand the concept. What do you mean he's not coming back? But, which is crazy now, because in this day and age of college football, they can come back forever, right? Cam Rising and all these guys.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel, I mean,
yeah.
But Mike, looking ahead to 2025, I'd like to hear from all three of you. I think OU is in a good spot going into the 2025 season. We're still up in the air about a defensive coordinator, but I'm sure Brent Venables is going to make the right hire for defensive coordinator. He's playing chess. He ain't playing checkers.
Well, I think it's all about the defense again. Cross your fingers. Hopefully they stay healthy, because I think they're going to be really good. I love some of the additions. They didn't do a lot of the defense in the portal. We'll see what happens in the spring. But to get Marvin Jones Jr., to get Kendall Daniels, when you're talking about up front, Armation Thomas, Marvin Jones Jr.'s PJ, Danny Okoye, interior, Jaden Jackson, Dominic Williams, David Stone, Grayson Halton coming back. Then you got Kip, Sammy, Kobe McKenzie, Canick. Kendall Daniels can play some linebacker, maybe some cheetah. Eli Bowen and Gentry Williams. Please Gentry Williams. Bishop, if you would, make sure to include Gentry Williams' shoulder on your prayer list so he can stay healthy. And then you've got, please do that. Add that to your list. But Robert Spears Jennings, Peyton Bowen, Michael Boganowski, at safety. And that's a really good defense. But they just got to get this offense clicking.
Hey, Mike, one of my guys in the chat has a question for you. He said, question for Mike Steely. Who will be y'all's DC if you had to guess right now?
I mean, I think it's probably Brandon Hall, maybe. I know there's talk about Knowles out there. We'll see. I know there's an Oklahoma, from what you hear, there's an Oklahoma connection there with, the lady that I guess he's engaged to. What I'm hearing, Mike Boganowski probably knows a lot more than I do. That name's out there, and the people that I talk to say, well, maybe a lot. Bob Stoops said this morning on the ref, hey, I don't see that happening. Pretty much is what he said. My guess would be, I don't know. Besides that, I think probably in-house it might be Brandon Hall, but we'll see. The bottom line is, and there's a thought that Brent may just call it himself again. We'll see. I would cede my time to Mr. Boganowski here. He probably knows a lot more than I do.
Listen, I try to tell people, listen, I don't know much. Right? I'm in most of the time, right? 95% of the time, I'm in the same boat as everybody else. With my knowledge of you. But here's what I will tell you guys: is I have done my best in trying to get, making Coach Hall, letting him know my opinion on him taking the DC job. And I've expressed it to him multiple times. He knows how I feel about it. So I've been doing my part. But if I had to choose, it would be Coach Hall. It'd be Brandon Hall.
Me too. I love Brandon Hall. I love Brandon Hall. If you're going in house, I think he's excellent. Great recruiter too.
Good recruiter, and he is also a heck of a DC at Troy. When he was there.
Yeah, so, definitely.
That he's Newcastle, Oklahoma boy anyway, ain't he, Mike?
Yeah, he is. Yep.
Yeah. But I think Hall would be excellent as the D coordinator and Wes Goodman as the linebacker. So you can pull in his recruiting because he's a recruiting guru for Clemson. So those two, let's tag team. Why can't we have both? We keep trying to choose. I want
idea. I just wonder again, where does all the money come from? It's like, okay, let's see. What do we got to do? We got to retain. Okay, this guy wants 100 grand. This guy wants 75. This guy wants 200. Oh, it's Armation Thomas. Okay. It's like, it's crazy. We're never going back. I'm old school. Look, these kids work their tails off. And think about this with the college football playoff. Ohio State and Notre Dame, they didn't play in a conference championship game. Let's say Texas, thank God for Jack Sawyer. Let's say Texas won that game the other night. They would be playing their 17th game of the season. Mm-hmm. That's a pro schedule. That's the NFL's regular season. We care about these kids' health and safety, and by the way, they have to be students too. And there are a lot of them who are really good students still. And I'm sure with Brent's culture, they're making them get their, go to class. But these guys, their free time has got to be like this, 0. So they deserve to get paid. But the only thing I don't like is it's like can you imagine if the NFL had free agency and you could sign a 1-year deal?
Wow.
There's got to be some rhyme or reason to this with the athletes getting compensated. Because, Mr. Boganowski, I'm sure with what Mike goes through, it's a full-time job to play college football, and you got another job being a student too. I mean, they literally, it's not an easy gig.
Nope, it's not. It's time-consuming, but at the end of the day, it's good for them.
Yeah.
And they just can't sit around and be like this. They can't. just glued to their phones. They got responsibilities, they got stuff they have to do, and in obligations. So I mean, granted, that phone helps keep them in line with some of their obligations and stuff that they got going on. But yeah, man, these kids, they're smarter than we were coming out, with just like the knowledge, that's available to them. But we were a little bit more of a like, hey, we'll figure it out, we'll do it, and let's get after it type, culture growing up, because we didn't have all these gadgets and stuff where you could just look it up and at the click of, type something in and you got the answer. They're figuring out some of that adult stuff in life that they haven't had to deal with. It happened today with Mike, walking him through some stuff. But yeah, they're learning and they're growing and maturing, and they have all the resources in Oklahoma that they could ever need. If they never need help and he doesn't want to call me, he can call plenty of people at OU and they'll help him. And that's good for them. And these kids are growing up, man. This is formative for them. And they work hard. And don't get me wrong, they were up first thing this morning working out, and then classes start today. So yeah, they got a full plate on them. They gotta eat, they gotta go to class, they gotta work out and get after it in the classroom. So it's good for them, man. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather them to have not enough time than have too much time.
Some of the stuff in life will seem like it's a walk in the park compared to what you had to do playing major college football and going to school and working out with Jerry Schmidt. But yeah, our Google right back in the day, my Google was the Encyclopedia Britannica or the World Book.
Mine was the World Book Encyclopedia.
Yep, that is a fact.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Mike,
my mom still has all of those encyclopedias.
I just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
I'm like, Mom,
still on the shelf over my mom's house.
So me being right?
We still got the 1970. We still got the 1972 World Book Encyclopedia set with the dictionaries, the Childcraft edition, and the World Atlas.
Don't forget the Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't forget that.
Mike, when he mentioned Evel Knievel a while ago, he gave me PTSD because one of the worst whoopings I ever got was trying to be Evel Knievel and jumping our chicken hutch with my bicycle.
There was going to be bodily harm, bodily injury was going to happen if you were trying to Evel Knievel jump back in the day. I'm telling you, we weren't the greatest engineers. We'd stack up like 6 or 7 rows of bricks up without any support, and then just put like a wood panel on it. All right, are we ready? Well, of course the bricks would completely fall over, and then some. I can remember, I don't want to mention any names, Ron Daniels broke his arm and was crying, and everybody ran out and like, what are you guys trying to do? We were trying to jump Snake River. He tried to do that in Rocket, but I remember a story about one guy that sold tickets. He was going to jump a farm pond. He lived on a farm. He had some neighbors, brought his friends over and said, for $1, you can come watch me jump on my mini bike. I'm going to jump the farm pond. It was a small pond and everything, but they ended up, he sold like 15 tickets. A bunch of his friends, came by, and I guess he was like 14 years old or so. So he takes off. They built a ramp, and he lands right in the middle of the farm pond. I mean, not even close. And it was a small, but and he sinks, and his bike goes down. Luckily, he comes up, and but he didn't quite make his jump either. But we all tried it back in the day.
Oh yeah. My dad, he was a truck driver back then, and me and my best friend, we was watching the Green Berets with John Wayne, watching them parachute. And my dad had this big old tarp on his trailer. So it was all us little toots could do to get it on top of the barn. So we get the tarp and us two up there We folded it out. We unfolded it, grabbed it, and jumped, and it didn't jump. And Mama just happened to be staring out the kitchen window. And I mean, we got our little heinies tore up. Whoa. So,
oh my gosh. I'm so glad that I grew up in that era because you know what? Because I will just flat out tell you, if I was a kid and I was 13 or 14 right now, I'm sure I'd be doing this.
Yep.
Me too, Mike.
That's what I'd be doing.
Oh, they do.
We did what was popular at the time, but what I liked is we would get out, man. You had to use your imagination to play. We would play every sport. We'd go find I can remember my mom would just let us loose basically after breakfast. And the only time we came back was for lunch or dinner. And that was it.
Yeah.
We were out playing sports. We were out, fishing. We used to sneak on farm ponds around the area.
Oh, yeah.
And if it said private property, what? No, I don't think so. And we would go do that. We'd fish all day, play sports, and it was awesome. But it's just a different generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technology changed everything.
So
yeah.
here's, I'm gonna segue this real quick. So speaking of farm ponds, right? So let me tell you how my middle and my youngest one merge looking for farm ponds and technology, right?
So I like this story.
These jokers, right? So we're fishing, and we got a big lake right up around the big reservoir right up the street from me here in Kansas. So it's 5 minutes, and we're we got poles in the water. But all their friends, they talk about farm ponds or whatever. So Marcus, he gets on Google Maps on his phone, and he just starts looking for random bodies of water out in farms. He's like, it's like, Dad, can we go fish this? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but it's some illegal activities. I was like, you got to figure out who owns it, and then we can go ask him or whatever, But, so he's like, using his phone to find these places to possibly fish and try to find who owns the land to ask for permission.
That's good.
It's so hilarious to me because like when I was a kid like that, and 16, 17, man, we didn't even.
Oh no,
we didn't care. We were just sneaking in somewhere,
climbing the barbed wire fence or whatever.
Oh yeah,
we got one story. We got these were always within like a 2-mile radius of our house because we lived in a new neighborhood that was just developed, and we were one of the first. But there was woods around everywhere, and there was this one. Maybe it was like 2.5 miles. Private property posted everywhere. We would climb the fence. So this guy, it was a fairly decent sized farm pond. It had like a little island in the middle too. But I remember he had a boat, with a little bitty motor on the back. It wasn't anything. We're like, let's get in the boat and go fishing. So we got in his boat and we're out in the middle of his farm pond, just casting away, reeling in. And all of a sudden we hear this noise and we see this cloud of dust coming over this little hill, and this truck, this gigantic truck. And there he is. And he pops out shotgun. Now, I don't think he was going to shoot us, but he's scared. What are you boys doing on my land in my boat? We're like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry, sir. We're like, taking his boat back to the shore. Don't you ever cut. Now, that was the last time we were there because there was a little bit of a Deliverance hillbilly look to this guy. Like maybe he might shoot if we don't leave him immediately. But that was the audacity we had. Oh, yeah, this private property, but we can take his boat out too. That won't be a problem. But we got caught right in the middle of his pond. And I can still hear the engines humming and the dust coming over this little hill and then seeing that truck. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
So
here he is. I tell you what, Mike, in the summertime, my grandparents, they lived down in southeast Oklahoma, south of McAllister.
Mm-hmm.
And now you talking about Deliverance hillbilly. Some of the
dueling banjos.
Hey, we're talking. Yeah, dueling. Hey, we'd go up and down Comiskey River running trot lines for catfish. And some of them old boys coming out of the woods, we know what they was doing up in them woods. They had they was either growing the green leafy substance or making some moonshine. We couldn't. but, but these fellers, you know, that one eye that seemed to drift to the right. What are you boys doing here?
This was like the real life dude that showed up for us too, like the guy you literally see in the movie that's upset that you're on his land. But we were able to get out of that situation. So, man, I feel like I'm taking you guys way away from OU football. I'm an old man. My mind wanders, you know.
Time. Hey, we go
Mike,
down.
me and you's about the same age, so I needed this. I mean, like I said, I'm a long-time listener of you, fan of you, and you don't know how blessed I am to have you on today. So anything you want to talk about.
Well, I've only got like 5 more minutes before I have to start doing. I kind of do the dinner plans here in a little bit. For that,
okay. Well, before you get off, what's your pick for the national championship?
You know, Ohio State's on a roll right now. Notre Dame's a good, tough. I love Marcus Freeman. They're tough. They're physical. But I just think Ohio State, it's amazing the turnaround to lose to Michigan for the 4th straight year to come back and do what they've done. Because Ryan Day, everybody's talking about Ryan Day's done. He's over. Well, he's about to win a national championship. Personally, I don't know. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans because we've talked about who do they hate the most. Texas, number 1, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I think right now, you know, Missouri's up there, USC's up there because of Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma State to a certain extent, but Notre Dame is way up there because they broke the 47-game winning streak. I know that goes back a long time, but Lou Holtz stole the play like a champion today sign. Trying to get it copyrighted when it's Oklahoma's original. And, you know, it's just it's a combination of stuff. But I don't know. I guess maybe if I was alive during the Bud era, I don't have a lot of hatred for Notre Dame. But I just want to see a good game. I want to see a good game a week tonight.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to say my pick's going to be Ohio State by 7. That's going to be my pick.
You're right on the line. That's the last line I saw today. It was either 7 or 7.5. So we'll see. We all thought, like, man, Ohio State's got a great roster, but too bad they've got Will Howard. And now Will Howard, you know, to a certain extent, has turned into like Joe Montana here recently. Now, how about Texas? By the way, they hold Ryan Williams to what? 1 catch for 3 yards, and they don't win a game. Wow.
Yeah. I think the plan was more of a decoy role for him. But yeah, they Ohio State. I think. I tend to look at it like this. I think Ohio State might win by 3 scores.
Yeah.
That's kind of where when I think about it and how it's going to play out. I just feel like that's the type of game it's going to be.
I think you're right. I think if it's going to be one-sided, it'll be Ohio State. Notre Dame would have to win with some turnovers and win a close game. But how many times do we get this situation when we get a game that's over, you know, early in the 3rd quarter or something? I just hope we get, you know, we had 2 great semifinal games, right? First half of Penn State Notre Dame was kind of boring, but both semifinals turned out to be pretty good. And speaking of, before I go, one of my I still think my favorite moment, even though it wasn't a national championship team, was 1977 Von Schaman in Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you.
Woody Hayes. And Woody Hayes. I think that was maybe the beginning of Woody Hayes' demise, because it was after that season when he punched the dude from Clemson in the face after the interception. Charlie Bauman, I think his name was. I can remember we went to basketball practice the next day. Hey, Woody got fired. But that kick with Von Schaman, you know, directing the crowd and everything and splitting the uprights, I think that's still maybe my personal favorite OU moment of just a great – because remember, OU, they had to recover a fumble Reggie Kinlaw recovered a fumble to get the ball back. and then they end up kicking a 41-yarder, I think it was. But
yep,
and just
chip shot for
Woody
Uzi.
Hayes, and then you get the cover of SI the next week. That I was just thinking of Ohio State, and that game's still one of my favorites. The game in Columbus.
I guess my Sooner moment was 1976. The Woody Shepard to Steve Rhodes pass, and then the hook and lateral from Steve Rhodes to Elvis Peacock.
The beginning of Sooner Magic, right?
The beginning of Sooner Magic, brother. I was in Lincoln at that game, and let me tell you what, brother, it was cold.
I bet. Yeah. Lincoln, Nebraska in November. But yeah. Did Dean come in that game?
Yes. Dean came into the game. Yep. He's the one that threw the pass to Rhodes and
Rhodes.
Yep. Sure was.
Elvis Peacock. Sure, what a good player. What a great name.
Oh my God, Elvis Peacock.
You better be cool and good at what you do if you're Elvis Peacock, right? I mean, he was.
Before you get out of here, Mike, that hat is elite. I just want to throw that out there.
Yes.
That Big 8 conference.
Yeah, that's
that is an elite hat.
Thank you.
So
yes.
I always stop in Rally House when I'm down in Norman just because they got so much stuff and I feel like I got to look at it, right? And I looked at it. They have a Big 8 conference Letterman jacket with like the patches of all the original.
Oh, nice.
And it's the same color. It's got that Big 8 patch on the back, and that looked back perfect, man. But when I saw that hat, I was like, dude, that looked just like that would go sweet with that jacket.
Let me tell you where I got this, and they come in, but it's very rare. You guys follow on Twitter Super 70 Sports?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't.
Great account, by the way. He curses a little too much for me, but a great account. Yeah. So he's got a store, Super 70 Sports Store. So go to Super 70 Sports Store in the search option, put in Big 8. Now, they always have the Big 8 T-shirts in, which basically are green, look just like this. But they sell out of the Big 8 conference hats a lot. But if you'll check back on the Super 70 Sports Store, every now and you'll hit that and they get a few in, but they go quickly. But that's where I found it at the Super 70 Sports Store. Because I remember he sent out, this has been 4 years ago or so, and said, he put out, hey, do our shop. And I saw the Big 8 hat, and I'm like, oh, I'm in right now. And so I just went right there and bought it. But they sell out really quick.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I hope this ain't the last time we see you here at Sooner Legends Podcast, brother. I know you're a busy man, but you're welcome to come on with us anytime you want to, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. Let's hope Michael Boganowski becomes the next Roy Williams. And, I think he's got a bright future at OU. So,
yeah,
and, Sooner football is going to come back, and it might come back this year. But it's just, you're in the heavyweight division with Ollie, Frazier, Foreman, all the greats in the SEC.
That's it.
And it's just a different road. But I think if they can go out 1-8 or maybe even 7, if they're really impressive and there aren't any embarrassing losses in there, I want to see Brent succeed because
me too.
I just want to see it. And I think last year, and was there some bad coaching? Yeah, there was some bad coaching. There had to be, but particularly on the offense. But I think there was a lot of really, really bad luck too. So, can you imagine what Brent's going through personally?
Thank you.
I've got a wife with MS, and I worry about her every single day. And she has the mild form of MS. Yeah. But what he's dealing with right now. But you know what? He's a man of strong faith, and he's got great character about him. But when you're under fire, but there's real life going on in your house too, which is much bigger than football, as big as OU football is, that's tough. So I hope he succeeds. You guys are awesome.
Me too,
Thanks
Mike.
for having me on.
All right.
Thanks.
Anytime, Mike.
Thank you again.
Do I kick myself off, or do you guys kick me off?
You can kick your just leave studio, Mike.
Leave studio. Thank you, guys.
All right, now.
Thank you, Mike. And that was Mike Steely.
We've reached the pinnacle on Sooner Legends Podcast. We might as well just shut it off.
Oh my God. I tell you what, Mike and Bishop, that guy right there, I have followed him he was one of the original the sports animal in Oklahoma City, WWLS. He was one of the original morning animals, and when he left the animals and went over to Craft 107, he's great. I mean, good insights. Well, Bishop,
Yes, sir.
let's break down the upcoming national championship.
Okay. What do you want, the keys to the game?
Keys to the game.
Yeah. For Ohio State, they got to start fast. They have to one, establish the run. Two, establish that they're willing to run the quarterback, so it gives you another thought, so that you can't key on the run, and then they got to mix in the pass, which they've been doing. And I think Chip Kelly is the X factor for them. Notre Dame side, they have to, without a doubt, they have to get turnovers. Turnovers is the X factor for them. Running the ball and being complimentary will be Notre Dame's if they're gonna find a way to win, and they got to make every possession count.
Yes,
because they're not explosive as Ohio State. So the more that they can get points out of each series, the better off they are.
Yeah. Okay, Big Mike, your turn.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be too much for Notre Dame to handle. They got a good defense, but they got a couple dudes at running back. Line as well. And I just feel like they got a lot of feedback happening there. I just got a feeling that there's going to be too much for the Notre Dame defense to try to stop. I think they're going to be able to run the ball real well. Will Howard, on that plus one running game, and Jeremiah Smith and the other receiver they got. I just think it's going to be too much, and it might be close in the first half, but I think toward the end of the game, I think Leonard probably have a turnover or two. And I think Ohio State probably gets up by 3 scores, and the fourth quarter's fairly, the game's pretty much wrapped up at that point. That's just kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
I think they had a little letdown. Oklahoma State did, or Ohio State did in the last game versus Texas, and I don't think that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I got it. OSU 38.
Go ahead.
Notre Dame 17.
Yeah. I think
I'm going to go. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry about that.
I'm thinking something similar. Maybe even I think Oklahoma State. God, I said it again. Ohio State. I think Ohio State's defense is going to pretty much shut Notre Dame down. I think they're going to do a good job against them.
Yeah,
stopping the run, making them be a passing offense. So I'm thinking 35-14. Let's just say that right there. Just make it.
That'll work. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm going to say what's that? What's that receiver that was held to one catch for Ohio State against Texas?
Jeremiah Smith.
What was his name? I can't think of it right now, but he. Huh?
Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah. I think this is going to be his. I think this is going to be his resurrection game, because you ain't going to keep a receiver like that from getting one catch in the game. Ain't no way.
Gotcha.
And I like Notre Dame, but I just think with Will Howard and what weapons he does have on offense, I think they're going to be too much for Notre Dame. So, but I still think it's that if Riley Leonard gets going and don't have any turnovers, I'm going to say 35-28 Oklahoma State, or Ohio State.
I hear you. I hear you.
I'm
Both of
gonna.
you. Look at you, both of you, man.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So, anyway, guys, Bishop, Mike, I appreciate y'all coming on today. We've been going for about an hour. I got to get some vittles in my body. And Mike, let's do it again. Let's do me, you, and Bishop do a pregame next Monday.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds
Okay,
good.
guys. And guys, well, thank y'all for tuning in to Sooner Legends podcast. If you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a like, comment. We're at 747 subs. And I'm pretty sure this ain't the last time we've seen Mike Steely. So y'all get out. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and this is the legend. Horns down, everybody. And we'll see you on the backside. God bless y'all. Boomer Sooner.